Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. We have a lot to get into tonight, including the Penguins, who went through a draft. And now we have free agency coming up, and there could be some trades on the horizon. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about TJ Watt. Still no deal. What does this mean? But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is going to be the Pirates, who took 3 from a team that has a payroll of $349 million. They swept the Mets. Here to talk about it, Jason Mackey, columnist with the Post-Gazette, Mark Kaboly from the Pat McAfee Show. So first, I want to get into this weekend. We may as well talk about it because twice now this year, people paid good money from Philadelphia and New York to come to Pittsburgh to watch their team beat the Pirates, only to watch the Pirates sweep both of those teams. Jason, pretty wild what went on today, and this is what's been missing for the Pirates.
They're the best team in the NL East, Pomp. The Pirates, break them up, man. I don't know what is going on with them offensively, but keep it going. Tommy Pham looks like an actual productive hitter. Is that not the most Pirates thing ever, where the guy literally can't see and then they fix his contacts and all of a sudden he's very, very good? Too little, too late. But, yeah, an encouraging series for the Pirates this weekend. They need to keep it going. They're still miles away from contention. I don't think it changes anything for the season, but certainly an encouraging weekend of baseball.
I don't know if it's encouraging. The way I look at it is more disappointing, because then you look, this is what this team could do if they had all the pieces in place. If they added something. I'm not the only one sitting out here saying if they added X, Y, and Z in the offseason, this where they could be at now. To me, it's just a blip on the radar, and it just makes you more angry that they can play like this. Now they're going to end up losing 8, 9, 10 out of 14 games. We're going to be right back at the same spot. It almost makes me more angry than excited.
I mean, I get that. I don't disagree with you. They should have added in the offseason. Right. They didn't add enough in the offseason. The offense hasn't been good. It's a blip.
But they're going to have the same thing coming up this offseason. They're going to be in the same position, basically, looking for batters if they don't get them at the trade deadline, which is another interesting situation here, Jason, because Ben Cherington, I'm not sure if he's on solid ground or not, but he is in, 5 years and 6 years of now this situation where they have not progressed at all, and they're still missing key pieces of offense. He's going to conduct this draft. How much freedom do you think he'll have doing so?
So the draft, Pomp, I think, is secondary to the trade deadline. The draft, I don't know if your average fan understands. It's not like the NFL. Cherington doesn't have the say that Omar Khan does. It's not the same thing as the Steelers do. So, I mean, the draft, I don't like it. I mean, Cherington should not be in his position. I don't understand it. But the greater issue, or the more awkward position, is the trade deadline. How much are you going to allow Ben Cherington to do? How much should they allow Ben Cherington to do? I don't think he's on solid ground. He shouldn't be. They'd be lucky to win more than 76 games, and that's not good. You're talking about 2 failed seasons in a row. They haven't progressed. They should move on from the GM, but you let him get through the trade deadline. Are you going to allow him to make franchise-altering trade? That's what they need to do to get bats, mind you. I just question how much they're going to allow him to do, and it's the wrong move.
Mark, They said on Jason's show, he had Jeff Bassett on. A couple of guys are not touchable, which are Paul Skeens. I think O'Neal Cruz is on that list, but that could be debatable depending on if there's an offer, and you would think Andrew McCutchen. Now that leaves everybody else, including Brian Reynolds, available. What do you think the Pirates should do at the trade deadline?
Well, I think they should move some of their pitching. I mean, Mitch Keller's the one that jumps out to you. Do you want to get rid of him? Probably not. But you're only going to get a bat if you give up an arm here in the trade deadline. So some of their excessive pitching, maybe. We know that Bubba Chandler's eventually coming, even though he's had a little bit.
How about trading him? How about if somebody says we want Bubba Chandler?
I would do it. Yeah. I mean, he's.
No way.
What has he proven in the Major League Baseball?
Nothing. Zip. And I don't care.
I would.
Look at his projection.
Depends
look at his no. Well, I guess, but no. I would trade Mitch Keller, Pom. I mean, that's the move you make. I just don't want this GM doing it.
Yeah,
and I don't understand. He has done nothing to add offense. To
and you see this all the time in the NFL too. When you have the GMs that are not on good footing, what do? They're trying to save their jobs, right? So they're doing things that might not be best for the team, but might be best for him. So I don't know how it works. I don't know if it works like that, how you were saying. He better have somebody to be able to sign off on before he can make any of these moves.
That may be the case, right? Yeah. There could be somebody, and I don't know if that's Bob Nutting or not, but somebody might be saying, no.
That makes me feel nice.
And if there were untouchables, I would imagine that comes from on high. He's not making that decision, right?
Yeah, I can't imagine Bob's looking at this and thinking that it's a good idea to have Ben Cherington make seismic trades. I mean, again, they need to make seismic trades. They need to get bats in here.
Why is he here?
I agree with you. I don't understand why he's here.
That's your job, to make trades
and
draft and trade.
But I mean, what trade has he made that has brought in actual production from an offensive standpoint? What free agent has he signed that has been good?
The only trade I can think of is Bailey Falter for Rodolfo Castro. That resulted.
But that's not bringing in offense.
No. I'm just saying that's the best trade that I could see. Some of these other guys, all these prospects who the Eddie Yeans of the world, who we never see again, Hudson Head, all these guys are supposed
horribly
to be
lopsided, and especially when it skews toward hitting. He has not done that. So I think what their approach is going to be, honestly, is to tell Ben, you're not allowed to make these seismic trades. Guys with years of control with the team. Keep Brian Hayes, Mitch Keller, Brian Reynolds. I don't think Cherington, unless it's an overwhelming offer, I don't think those guys get moved. I think it's Caleb Ferguson, Andrew Heaney, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, guys on expiring contracts, and that's not going to be enough for the Pirates to reorient themselves for next year.
If you have any self-respect as a general manager, why do you even agree to that? Say, okay, bye. Right?
I don't know if he knows it. I don't know if he knows. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I don't know. Ben might try to go make a trade that he thinks he's, and Bob sits there and says, no, you're not doing it.
And then you're not on very good firm footing if that's the case.
I hope it goes.
That's my own conspiracy theory again.
I hope it goes above Bob Nutting saying yes or no. Hope there's some more.
Who goes above him to say yes or no?
Well, I'm saying baseball trade.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I have a minute here. I want to talk about Dave Parker. Lost a great Pittsburgh Pirate, 11 years here. Everybody knows what the Cobra did. He was enshrined into the Pirates Hall of Fame 3 years ago. Mark, I want to ask you about next month he would have been in Cooperstown, but he never gets to enjoy that moment. Why does it take so long for these guys to get enshrined when I think their careers are pretty well obvious, Cooperstown bound, and yet it doesn't happen so quickly?
Can we get Ron Cook on the phone right now? I mean, honestly, it's tough. I mean, put it this way, at least Dave knew that he was going in. So there's at least that. You know what I'm saying? That he lived his life this past couple of months knowing that he was going to.
Some guys don't get that, though.
Yes, you're right.
Some guys don't get to see it at all.
You're right. I mean, I think Dave Parker, in a lot of our eyes, were a sure bet Hall of Famer. I mean, look at the Pirates. They just did it last year, right? Put him in the Pirates Hall of Fame. It is a shame, but I like to look on the positive side. Yes, me. To say that at least
you do? What?
At least he knew for
Mark,
a couple.
are you okay?
At least he knew for a couple months that's where he was going. So that's nice.
I have an opinion that is counter to what it should be for my profession as a writer. I don't think writers should have that much say in determining the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think it should be more of an electoral college. I think that writers should have some say-so. I'd like to see it be comprised of Hall of Famers, former players, managers, people who played the game, and I think they would put Dave Parker in.
That's what NFL does. They have a mix of players and writers and broadcasters and all that type of stuff.
We'll see. And another thing we should see is number 39 retired one day. The number, that's Dave Parker's number, and it should belong only to him. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Penguins. Talk about a trade deadline here coming up for the Pirates, but how about the Penguins? It's free agency, and there could be some trades coming. We'll talk about where they're headed next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, the Penguins, they had a draft. They started the week with 1. They ended up with 3 first-round picks. These are all guys you probably won't see for the next several years or so. And they had a big number of draft picks, but I want to talk about what this indicates. Jason Mackey, when we look at the Penguins and the way they're headed, it seems like it's more full rebuild than it is the other way around, which puts Sidney Crosby in an awkward position. Have we seen Sidney Crosby's last playoff game in Pittsburgh, perhaps?
I worry we have, Pomp, unless there's some sort of giant surprise. It seems like every time we have sort of a touch point with Kyle Dubas in this rebuild or retool, whatever you want to call it, that it kind of keeps moving back, that it's a little bit deeper. Sidney Crosby's already been out of the playoffs for the past 3 seasons. They're probably not going to make it this upcoming season. In 2 years, are they going to be good enough? I mean, what they got in the draft isn't going to help them toward that. I think ideally maybe they make it in after a 4-year hiatus. I just worry 5 years for Sid without making the playoffs. At that point, I feel like you have to kind of admit that, like, look, if he wants to play playoff hockey, it's going to have to be somewhere else, or you can stay here and be part of this extended rebuild. I don't think you can check both boxes.
Yeah, it's tough. I think when Dubas came in, they should have did this. They should have started the rebuild then. It might have hurt a little bit then. Then maybe now or a year away, Crosby's at that point to be able to make a run at a playoffs right now. Right now, he's in no man's land right now. He's not going to go anywhere. They're not going to trade him. And he's surrounded by a college coach and a bunch of youngsters. What's possibly going to happen?
But there are some 30-something guys on that roster, and this is the
for now.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. The line they're trying to walk is we're going to rebuild, but we're also going to try to get this team in the playoffs. So you have guys like Brian Rust, you have guys like Ricard Raquel, you have guys like Eric Carlson, who comes with a hefty price tag. So the question, I guess, Mark, these guys, if you're in a rebuild, if that's your mindset, these guys would bring in more to help you more, in the next 2 years than these draft picks.
I don't know who's taking Carlson. You'd have to pay somebody to take
Maybe
Carlson.
so, but how about the other two? And they probably have movement clauses that I don't know how extensive they are.
But with a movement clause, wouldn't they want to move at this point?
Maybe not.
I'm not looking at a 3-4 year rebuild if I'm Brian Russ saying, yeah, that sounds good to me. So I would think that anybody's on the table to be able to move right here, except for Crosby, of course. But it's just not a good situation there. It's in a good situation with the youngsters, the 13 picks, the 3 first-rounders, some of the grit they got in the draft too. Some big guys, some big, strong guys. But we're looking what, Pomp? 2-3 years?
That's what I mean.
Easy?
Minimum.
Yeah, minimum. With Ricard Raquel and Brian Rust, Pomp, if you're going to compete in 26 and 27, I understand keeping those guys. Like if next year is just going to be a wash and you've got to take a step back, I just don't get that vibe from the Penguins, that they're going to be going for it in 26, 27, that it's going to be that quick. It certainly seems like it's much more extensive. There's really no outer boundary on this. They might take a long time. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then I agree with you. Then trade Rust, trade Raquel, because they help the overall thing. But again, if I'm Sidney Crosby and I'm in the middle of this, I see my 2 line mates gone.
Right.
I see Gino gone. Letang's on a downslide. And like Mark is saying, you've got a bunch of college kids and a college coach in here. Where are we going?
Right.
Where are we going?
On top of that, you're not sure what your goalie situation is. You still have Tristan Jarry. He's probably untradeable at this point to get, what you would need. And you have 2 young guys. Mark, I think their goalie situation is another one. If you're asking me today, I would say Tristan Jarry is your starting goaltender.
Yeah, this year.
With Nedeljkovic again as the backup.
Sadly.
Nothing's changed.
This year, but they got the young guy.
Miroshov.
Yes.
But also
coming up in 2
Blomqvist.
years. Maybe not next year, the year after that. But back to the Crosby thing, I feel bad for that guy. He's in a bad situation. You know how much he hates to lose.
Which is why he's playing in all these great tournaments and Olympics and captain the Canada team.
And he's going to be playing with teams. Oh, man, I just feel he has – here's nothing he can do. He's not going to ask for a trade. But the goalie situation, that's what they thought was right a couple years ago because they got pretty much hamstrung of Jarry because there was nobody else really out there. And now you have to pay for it.
I think they can trade Carlson. I think that's a different discussion. I think there's enough offensive upside to his game. If you attach $3 million and a sweetener or something like that, you can get rid of him.
To a team that needs that.
Yeah, to a team. I understand that. And a team that has enough around Carlson to kind of support it, you can get out from under that. I do worry about Jarry, Pomp. I think he's going to be there opening night. I'm with you. I don't think that's the best thing for the Penguins. I would rather see them sign somebody just as kind of a placeholder for whenever Blomqvist or Miroshov finally comes along and earns that spot. And I wish you could get something, spend that money differently, et cetera. They just really hamstrung themselves. Kyle Dubas did with the Jarry extension, with the Carlson contract, with the Ryan Graves signing. These are bad moves early on in Kyle Dubas' tenure that we're probably not talking about enough, being detrimental to what they're doing.
When you're trying to do 2 things at once. You're trying to rebuild and you're trying to win now. That's what happens.
Right, and you can't do both. They put you right where you don't want to be, which is in the middle of nothing. Or who knows? Maybe there's going to be something out there that happens and they can get in it. I just want to see Sidney Crosby play in the playoff again, at least one more time. When we come back, we're going to talk about TJ Watt and whether or not he's going to end up signing this deal. If there is a deal, how much is the deal going to be worth and why are the Steelers waiting on it? We'll get into that next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, we're back talking about the Steelers. Not much going on until training camp begins late in July and then preseason games, which should be interesting. The question is, TJ Watt, is he going to be around for any of this? And if so, how much will it cost? Mark Kaboly, you've been covering this for quite a while here. What's your gut tell you? And also because Micah Parsons hasn't had a deal yet. If he gets the kind of money that TJ may want, even though he's kind of a different player, do you think that would affect even more TJ's stance in this?
That's one of the reasons why I don't think TJ's in any hurry. How does it benefit TJ Watt to sign right now? He's going to hold in. You know from a couple years ago when he did hold in, that he had 22.5 sacks. Even if he does sign the contract, he's not going to participate much in the preseason, if all. He's 30, 31 right now. So why not take it up till September 9th? So you could see what Micah Parsons might get or Aiden Hutchinson might be able to say. Why would he want to sign right now is what I want to say.
Well, why then are the Steelers waiting this long? Because they could have, a year ago, they could have.
Well, you can't force the guy to sign.
I know, but they were seemingly open to talking about it back then before Myles Garrett got his contract, before Max Crosby got his contract.
And the problem is that there's going to be a signing eventually. Like, I think the contract's going to get done. I don't disagree with it. Or I don't disagree that it's going to get done. I disagree with the idea of it getting done. You're going to wait. You're telling me TJ Watt's going to wait to get like 42, 43, 44 million, and the Steelers are going to do that?
Yeah.
Mark, that's idiotic.
I think it's more guaranteed.
Idiotic.
I don't look at that overall number. I think that's meaningless to me.
What number should I look at?
You should look at the guaranteed and how many years of that guaranteed.
How much is that going to be?
That's the big question.
He wants more than what Myles Garrett got.
But you get 2 years of guaranteed money like he did.
But I mean,
his
how's
last
that going to
contract
defray the yearly cost? How's that going to defray the yearly cost into a place that's reasonable?
Well, I don't think it will. I don't think
Okay,
I don't
then,
think the cost
then why
is
are
the
you
matter.
telling me I'm not looking at the right number?
I'm not looking at the cost. I'm looking at if you're TJ Watt, I want to be secure with this. If it's $40 million a year, I want that money guaranteed year 1 and 2 when I turn 31, when I turn 32, almost 33.
Wouldn't it be in the Steelers' best interest to do that?
I think
the
it would be.
first 2 years. After that,
you talk about how many playoff games have they won without TJ Watt. I can guarantee you something. They're not going to win any without him. They're 1-9 when he doesn't play.
Right.
They need him.
How many are they going to win with him?
Well, they have a better chance.
They've won
to
a lot with him, I know.
They can win better with him than they do without him. I can guarantee that.
I want to talk about what the leverage the
Dividing
Steelers
by
have,
zero
because
here.
people don't want to talk about this, but they could decide, we're not doing that. You still have a year. You owe us a year. This is not the way they normally do it. Although back in Dan Rooney's days, he made some tough decisions that had to be made. I'm just asking, what would be, they have leverage here to say, you have a year left. You owe it to us to play. And then we can franchise tag you after that. I know that's ugly, and I know that's probably not where we're going to end up, but they could do that.
Yeah, they could do that. The way I look at it is I look at the history. You look at the history of the guys they want to get done over the last 20 years. Every single one of them was done except maybe Emmanuel Sanders, and they got Antonio Brown instead, and maybe Le'Veon Bell. Everybody else they earmarked, I want this guy to be a lifetime Steeler. I want to sign him to that second year, got signed. So why would this be any different?
I agree with you, but I'm just saying they do have some leverage in this situation.
Yeah, but they're going to do exactly what Mark said. I disagree with it. I think a lot of people disagree with it. I mean, if I was managing this, I would say you can play for the contract that you're on the books for. We can extend you for something that's less than $42 million a year. And if you don't want to sign that, we'll franchise tag you. We appreciate your services. We haven't won in the playoffs without you or with you. We cannot win in the playoffs without you. It's the same thing. Yeah. And they're never going to do that. They're going to sign him for some exorbitant, ridiculous amount. And I just don't think they're going to get the bang for the buck on that contract.
All right, we'll find out. This is going to play out probably all the way until September when the season begins, just like the last time. I think it went all the way to September, a couple days before the season. It may go that same direction this time. When we come back, we're going to talk about Barry Bonds, because they're building a statue for him out in San Francisco, but should they include him in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown? We'll talk about that and more next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, we're back talking about Barry Bonds. That's right, because he's getting a statue out in front of their stadium in San Francisco, which means he deserves it, at least I think. So we got a lot of email on this saying the opposite. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame, Jason Mackey, and the reason I do is because he was never not allowed to play. He was playing, he put up the numbers. He was a Hall of Famer, quite frankly, before he ever went to San Francisco. The numbers got completely ballooned after that, if you know what I mean. But, hey, to me, it's simple. If you're allowed to play, you judge a guy on that. Forget all that other stuff.
Well, he was also a Hall of Famer before any of that stuff happened. He was a Hall of Famer when he left Pittsburgh. I look at a lot of those guys from the steroid era. You can form your own judgments. I can form my own judgments, and I'm going to feel a certain way about guys who are in the Hall of Fame. But it's not the Hall of great people. If you're going to start looking at people for cheating or being repugnant or anything like that, that place is going to empty out real quick. One of the most absurd things, Pomp, you have sports writers evoking a morality clause? Are you kidding me? The people who should not be evoking a morality clause, give me a break. Bonds deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And if you think he did steroids, I'm probably with you, but I would not.
But there are a lot of guys who probably didn't, we don't even know about.
Exactly.
And they could be in there, right?
That is the biggest argument of all. You have no clue who was on the stuff and who wasn't on the stuff. All I know about Barry Bonds is back during that heyday of his San Francisco games when he's hitting those 70 home runs, okay, it was on the whatever. He would get one pitch a game, and he'd hit a home run.
Right.
Still have to connect with it.
One pitch a game.
Right. He'd walk all the time. He had the best eye awareness in baseball.
Everything. I think he deserves to be in here. He probably should have a statue here as well. I'm glad, and Bob Nutting, I know you're watching, glad that you put him in the Pirates Hall of Fame. But I think he needs to be, because you can't determine who was on it and who wasn't. What low-level guy was, what high-level, you don't know. No. So everybody should be available.
And baseball absolutely loved that heyday. They made a lot of money off McGuire, Sosa, and Barry Bonds. All right, I want to remind you, it's coming up on a holiday, and number one Cochran's red, white, and new celebration is going on right now, and that means a whole lot of bang for your buck. Select new vehicles that are marked with special tags indicating extra savings up to $1,000. Plus, you will lease payments as low as $149 a month and financing from 0%. Number one Cochran's tag savings are available in-store only through July 5th, so mark that down. But hurry in. It's the red, white, and new celebration at number one Cochran. All right, before we go, quick question. NHL just agreed with its players on a new CBA. Baseball next year, we're going to go down the same path. Mark, what do you think is going to happen?
Absolutely nothing. And the players should not give up a penny. Forget
So
it.
you think there'll be a lockout?
They're not going to. No.
Oh. Lockout?
I think lockout. I do. I think you're going to. Jeff Passan on my evening show this past week said he thinks it's in peril and he doesn't think a cap and a floor are coming. So, yay.
Oh, then who's going to blink first? That's the question. I know what. If you're still up, keep blinking. Stay up with us right here on the number one Cochran Sports Showdown. We'll see you next week.